I'm sitting here with Saul Seibert from Boo Hag, and we actually recorded the session, the audio session for the music about a month ago. But we finally got a chance, due to scheduling conflicts and issues, we finally got a chance to sit down. So we're sitting down at the radio room right now, in the green room. But I wanted to talk to you, and so I had a couple of questions I wanted to ask you, but I want to see where it goes. There one question that I've asked you about before personally, but other people have also been interested in this. Is how did Boo Hag come together?
Just real quick, I'd moved to Columbia, South Carolina, and I wanted to put together a rock and roll band, and I didn't know anybody, so I just kind of ran around town and dropped off demos of this punk rock band I was playing in prior to Boo Hag. And through a number of circumstances, like I was introduced to Scott Tempo, and we really just kind of talked about what our influences were musically, and kind of I had brought a handful of songs together, and we got in a room and really just kind of made a lot of noise.
Yeah.
And it kind of just grew and morphed into Boo Hag.
Well, what were some of the influences you were talking about? What were kind of the things that what made you bond together?
Well, I think we both had like a real love for American rock and roll.
Yeah.
And also, like, I'm from New Orleans, so just a lot of jazz, a lot of blues, a lot of roots music. And he's just kind of like this savant when it comes to music. He just collects records. He knows B-sides. He's kind of a mad scientist, and so he knows more about it than I do. Really, frankly, he's an encyclopedia when it comes to classic American rock and roll.
So would it be correct to assume the kind of the roles you fill is that he's sort of the theory backbone, or maybe like the more calculated musical backbone, and you're more on the creative side, or more on the expressive side, or is it kind of a mixture of both?
No, usually I bring like full records to him. I'll write a record,
okay,
and then I'll bring the material to him, and we'll work on the record for a couple months. And prior to the pandemic, we would just tour it and just throw the songs in sets and everything like that, and hammer them out on the road. Being on tour is kind of like a tool shed, and so you get to play in front of people that you don't know, and you're working stuff out. And so, but I bring records, bodies of work to Scott, and then he starts playing percussion down behind him, and he has a lot of creative impact on the band, in that he kind of approaches everything in a very non-traditional way, and so that does affect some of the structure of the songs and how they come about. Yeah.
Well, so you say you bring them fully formed to him.
Mm-hmm.
What is your process? How do you typically get into the writing mentality?
I get up and I go to work.
Yeah.
With my music.
Okay.
I wake up and I begin writing.
Okay.
So, I treat it like it deserves to be treated.
Like it's a full-time job, and it's an effort,
Yeah. It's not. People get into it for different reasons, and that's fine. I'm definitely not the template, but this is the way I do it.
It shows in your work that you are in your music that you're putting a lot of work into it. That you are there's thought and there's effort and there's intent behind it,
mm-hmm.
and so that's something I've always really liked and respected about your work.
No, I appreciate it.
Well, earlier when you were talking about the record writing and recording process,
mm-hmm.
You mentioned the P word, pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of last year, 2020, Boo Hag put out two very different records.
Yeah.
You put out, of course, Burial Ground earlier in the year, which is more rock and roll. That's more of the sound that people have come to associate with Boo Hag.
Mm-hmm.
But then you put Ballads from the Bordello out,
mm-hmm.
Which was more, a little bit more like folk and gypsy jazz and kind of inspired. When did you get inspired to start writing songs like that?
When I was like old enough to understand music.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think, again, like the roots of music has always been kind of part and parcel of my life. So, I've been being influenced by this from, I mean, it would be difficult for me to know when. I'm just saturated in it,
Yeah.
And so, growing up in New Orleans, the street jazz, the gypsy jazz, I'm ashamed that I'm not better at it, really, frankly. I mean, but these songs have been marinating, and they were written prior to the pandemic, and I was touring them solo and playing them solo, and then I approached Scott and said, "Hey, what do you want to do?" And he's like, "Man, let's just book a cabin and go record them." And so we brought Daren Woodleaf on board with Ballads from the Bordello, our upright bassist, and we just booked a cabin in the mountains, smack dab during the pandemic, actually. And I mean, all that shit I think is recorded on a GoPro, if I'm not mistaken.
Just took the audio from the camera?
That's all open air. Yeah.
That's cool.
It's all like open air, and I'm not quite sure. You'd have to ask Scott how he did it, but it's like there was literally like a microphone in the middle of the room.
Wow.
And I think all those were recorded in 1 or 2 takes. We were literally living in a barn for 2 days. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I like that because you can kind of hear there is just something that it's reminiscent of music from a different era, and so to kind of hear that you recorded it with you just put one microphone in the middle of a room, and recorded that way. It's cool. It shows, but it's still. I mean, it's like it sounds great.
Thanks.
It sounds great.
That's all Scotty. I mean, we did have it mastered, but what you're hearing is like. Those are the takes. I mean, there's no there's literally like next to no finesse.
It wasn't you weren't chopping it up and
no. What you got? Like, I mean, there's like a donkey in the background, and you can hear trucks driving by and shit, and like, I mean, it's a very raw recording, but I mean, field recordings have been a part of Boo Hag from the beginning.
Yeah.
And so there's always a love affair with capturing things in a very raw format. Scott's always done it. We did it in Testify. Our first single, Turn of the Screw, was field recordings. So to capture like life as it's unfolding has been a part of the art that we do as a band. And so capturing something that can never be captured again is existentially like very important for Boo Hag.
Well, then what's next for Boo Hag? What's your next? Because you've just started playing some shows again, and you're playing some shows with Darby, and we haven't introduced Darby Wilcox yet, but she's in the room with us.
Well, Darby Wilcox, of course, is very well known in South Carolina, North Carolina, and the whole Southeast region.
Yeah.
Amazing singer-songwriter, very well established, respected. And I was kind of like a fanboy, always loved her work. We had spoken several times just via Instagram, talking about music and life and everything like that. And I kind of was feeling kind of a creative block, and I don't know how to... So I wrote these series of songs called Voyeuristic Love, and they're really just love letters.
Okay.
And it's a collection of 5 songs, and the subject matter seemed to be perfect to have Darby on. And so
it's cool.
So I invited Darby Wilcox on to be a part of the next Boo Hag project, and so we've been working together, writing and producing this record that has no release date so far. So
hey, well, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's been great, and she's been fantastic, and we've done some solo touring together over the last couple months, and it's been awesome. It's been really cool.
Well, I got a question for Darby, if you'd be interested in, you know.
Sure.
I would love, because we were talking earlier about how the songwriting style of working together has kind of affected both of you. Would you care to speak on that a little bit?
Sure. It has been cool to be playing more with Saul and writing more with Saul, because as peers, we both have a lot of respect for one another.
Right.
And so it's bringing out kind of like a totally different animal, as we were coming from two very different styles, but still similar enough that we're finding a common ground. And it's becoming, I for a long time was threatening to go electric, and now I'm like, doing it more because I have this opportunity to mix with Saul. So like I've been doing, I've written a series of songs that all kind of flow in and out of one another. It's going to be, kind of in the same way that Voyeuristic Love is kind of like a concept. This is also another one that's like a whole concept of love songs. And so Saul has been collaborating with me, playing on these songs. And I've, again, been playing electric as I wrote them on electric or on classical. So that's, something a little bit different than I've been doing with Peep Show. And so having him come in and kind of embellish on these songs and me playing electric and our, sometimes we've got some vocal stuff going on, which is nice. It's been really cool. It's a challenge, I guess, for both of us. It's good. And also, I'll be super candid. This is my lover and my best friend and, somebody that I value so much in my life. And, I've never had that in a partner to where I've been able to have that. We speak the same language, It's like a really magical and beautiful thing to share that, because it's always been separate from any other partners I've had. So
Yeah.
Man, to be able to move with that intuition, that music of that language of music, that universal language is just like, man, it's wild. It's just wild.
So, what are you? How is it affecting you? The writing together.
Voyeuristic Love has been just awesome. It's I'd sent her just these bedroom recordings, just like I'd recorded on my phone, and I send them to her, and I was like, "This is kind of stuff I'm working on," and she was like, "Oh, they're great," and I was like, "I'd love to have you play on them," and she was like, "Yeah, let's make music babies." So, we started making music babies, and she's just very adaptable, very pliable. She has a lot of finesse. It's you're working with professionals at this point in time, and as a punk rock band or a band that's often lassoed with that term, punk rock or whatever. It's fun to break the rules. It's really fun to be punk rock and say, "Hey, fuck off. I'm doing whatever the fuck I want over here." Yeah. And I just co-wrote an album with Darby Wilcox, so suck it. And, so it's been really cool because it's been fun. It's been fun to break the rules. It's been fun to work with somebody who takes you on a turn that you wouldn't, typically take. You can, as a musician and as an artist, if you're not careful, get stuck in ruts, and you don't even know you're there. But then you're just producing stock, And it's good to collaborate and work with people that are of different ilk, and allow them to teach you to continue to be a student in music and in art is really honoring the craft. And so I think it's been awesome, and she's fit great with Boo Hag and been a tremendous asset. With working with her, I can't speak for her, but I can speak for myself. It's been a huge stretch. Mm-hmm. It's been a huge stretch. It's been a long time since I've had to just do it differently, to play less, and to there's just rules, and that I have to break over here in order to fit these rules over here with music. And so it's been a challenge. It's been exciting. It's been really, really welcome, frankly, because again, you can get in ruts.
Well, one other thing I wanted to ask you about, you mentioned bringing in Daren on bass. Yeah. So for years, it's just been you and Scott. What's it like adding in this new element?
It's been great, man. And I think for the record, Boo Hag is a creation of Scott and I. That's just the
Yeah.
way it is, and that's the way it's probably always going to be known as. And Scott is an amazing asset and plays like a madman and an animal, and has for 6 years.
Yeah.
And so, you know, having a third member was never off the table. With Daren, he was just super cool. We were all mutual friends, and I'd seen him play with this bluegrass band. I was super impressed, and I was like, man, I want to work with that motherfucker. And so we had him on Ballads, and then after Ballads, you know, Scott and I talked, and I was like, man, if he can play the shows, I'd love to have him. So everybody, you know, even from Thomas, our saxophonist, it's like, when they can play, they will.
Yeah.
If they can't, they can't. Scott and I will still play the Boo Hag shows.
Is it changing, though, the way in your mind that you approach like live performance at all?
No.
Even in things like guitar tones or anything like that?
No.
No?
No.
It just makes it bigger and better?
I mean, I don't know. We'll find out tonight. It's our first time with Daren live with the rock and roll stuff. But no, I think in rehearsals and everything that we've been doing, I found it to be just real natural, and it's been nice to have that bottom end. And he brings some funk to it, which has always been an element to Boo Hag. You know, that kind of backbeat funk, that dirty South sound.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think it's a great fit, and it was really seamless and seemed natural, and I don't think it would have worked any other way.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, Saul, thank you so much for sitting down with me, and thanks for being on the very first episode of the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I'm glad to have you. I'm glad to have you and Scott. I'm disappointed that Scott couldn't make it tonight.
Yeah,
but,
he's at work.
Yeah, but hopefully he'll be down in time for the show, right? So.
Oh yeah, we're gonna kill it tonight.
Good. Oh, I hardly expect to. I can't wait to see it. So.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
What's the best way for people to learn more about Boo Hag?
Man, if you just type in Boo Hag, you know, we're there. You can go to boohagmusic.com, which is our website. You can go to the Bandcamp page, Boo Hag. Facebook, Instagram. You can find us on any streaming services, YouTube, you name it, we're out there. So, and
cool.
all of our music is free downloads, so you can download all of our records for free.
That's cool.
Yeah, man, it is. It's really cool.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, man.
Great.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mark.